The British Empire ruled over almost 13 million square kilometers of land worldwide at its height. However, did you realize that about 12 million square kilometers of land were under the jurisdiction of the second largest empire in global history? Being several hundred years older than the British Empire, the Mongol Empire was distinct. Their more expansive and nomadic kingdom than the Roman kingdom had a profound impact on history, even creating the Pax Mongolica. It brought stability, trade, and more travel to the area from its start in 1279 until the fall of the empire. Don't forget to subscribe to Ancient History for fascinating insights into the mysteries of the ancient world and captivating historical narratives. Most people associate the Mongols with bloodshed and conquest. They were, after all, renowned riders and fighters who tore across Eastern Europe and Asia. The reality of the Mongol Empire is a little more nuanced than the savage, ruthless conquerors that some have portrayed the Mongols to be. The Mongols were generally accepting of various cultures and civilizations. Therefore, their main objective in their efforts to conquer greater territory and power was not to destroy their neighbors. They allowed the people they subjugated to preserve their customs while remaining faithful to their own culture. The Mongols succeeded in fortifying their empire, but they left behind more than just the bloody tales of Genghis Khan. Upon closer examination of its past, we may observe this empire's remarkable accomplishment and question what impact it had on contemporary society. What caused the Mongol Empire to start? The majority of people think that Genghis Khan founded the Mongol Empire. However, the Mongol people existed for a long time prior to his birth, even if he was crucial to it. They were concentrated in modern-day Mongolia and northern China, and they resided in the eastern regions of the Great Eurasian Steppe. The steppes were extremely hostile. The Mongolian plains appeared uninhabitable at first appearance due to their harsh landforms, lack of arable land, and bitterly cold winters. Historians estimate that the first humans arrived on these plains tens of thousands of years ago, but this did not deter the Mongolians, of course. But it doesn't seem like people settled until about 3500 BCE when they domesticated horses. Equine-based nomadic societies were developed by the nomadic tribes and reinforced by metals, thanks to the availability of horses. By the end of the 3rd century BCE, they had grown strong enough to form the Xiongnu Empire. They were overthrown by the Xianbei Confederation, which lasted no longer than 2 centuries, when they were overthrown by the Chinese Han Dynasty in the latter part of the 1st century CE. Years of conflict ensued as the Mongols repelled the Chinese and Turks, and the Mongol tribes engaged in rivalry for supremacy, further escalating tensions. Of course, throughout the instability, Mongolia also saw periods of unification. Abaoji was a crucial leader who brought Inner Mongolia together. Despite his remarkable military accomplishments, he is best known for his administrative reforms. In order to better cater to the sedentary and nomadic segments of the people, Abaoji established 2 distinct systems. Because they were mostly sedentary, the sedentary population in northern China followed traditional Chinese administration. The peripatetic people persisted in using traditional tribal governance in conjunction with a few elite institutions to support Abaoji's hold on power. Despite the criticism from the tribal elders, his inventiveness served as a model for all subsequent Mongol rulers who wanted to guide their subjects. Parts of China and Korea belonged to the Khitan Empire, which was controlled by Abaoji. Not appreciating it, the Chinese destroyed the Khitan Empire in the early 12th century, following years of warfare. But the Mongols were hardy and resilient, and soon after, Temujin, you might be more familiar with him as Genghis Khan, was born in Mongolia. As the grandson of Kabul Khan, he was born about 1162 CE. His father, Yasuke, led the remnants of the Khitan Empire, which was a shadow of its former glory. Temujin did not grow up with the comforts we typically associate with royalty, despite the fact that his family was well respected. Temujin's father passed away when he was 9 or 10 years old, and the clan declined to take him and his surviving family with them. The family was concerned about invasions by neighboring clans and famine. After going through a difficult period of years, Temujin discovered the value of families and discovered how to utilize his charisma to win allies. two things he felt were necessary for both success and survival. Jamuka, a different tribal chief from Mongolia who had previously sided with Temujin, made an effort to oppose his new position, but all he accomplished was to paint Temujin as a more forgiving and reliable figure, encouraging more people to follow this up-and-coming leader. Temujin was a brilliant military strategist who soon discovered that the Chinese Jin dynasty was keeping its hold on Mongolia by inciting tribal strife. Temujin altered his tactics in order to break the cycle of Mongolian wars. After subduing a tribe, he put its leaders in jail and executed them for treason, but he spared the others, allowing them to blend in with his people rather than engaging in murder and looting. His task was to bring the steppes together. He made it a point to uphold honor in combat, which won him the admiration of strong fighters who quickly assisted him in leading his army to more triumphs. With enough supporters and adherents, Temujin called a tribal assembly in Mongolia in 1206, where he formally assumed the title of Khan and changed his name to Genghis, the modern Genghis Khan. This was the Mongol Empire's inception. In addition to establishing the first Mongolian legal code, Genghis Khan also reformed the army and tribal organization and set both administrative and judicial structures. Genghis Khan prioritized merit over heredity, hence the great Mongol nation lacked aristocratic titles. The Mongol Empire was given the foundation it needed by Genghis Khan to succeed and have an unprecedented influence on world history. How was the second largest empire in world history built by the Mongols? For some commanders, uniting Mongolia would have been sufficient, but Genghis Khan was content to keep growing, leading his army throughout Asia and beyond. Genghis Khan's true interest was in China, even though he started expanding Mongolia into Siberia in 1207 CE. His warriors were paid in booty, thus their allegiance depended on his continuing conquests. In 1210, the Jin dynasty in China also sought payment, and when Genghis Khan refused to pay, this fueled Mongolia's desire to invade the Chinese territories. Genghis Khan directed his troops toward the Xixia realm before assaulting the Jin dynasty. The cities were not as well defended as Jin cities, which made raids statistically more successful. It was a popular target for Mongolians. With some 70,000 warriors, he launched an assault in 1209 and swiftly routed the Xia army, the first organized force the Mongolians had ever encountered. Since he lacked the necessary siege weaponry, Genghis Khan had difficulties during the siege of Yinchuan, the capital of Xixia. Nevertheless, after nearly a year, he succeeded in taking control of the city and gaining the Xixia's vassalage, incorporating them into his expanding empire. Even though Genghis Khan had achieved this momentous victory, he refused to recognize the new Jin ruler and did not want to jump into a fight with China. Using the information obtained from Jin Empire defectors, he convened a gathering of his supporters to explore the prospect of war with China. The Mongol army was prepared after much deliberation and a 3-day prayer period, and they set out in the spring of 1211. After gaining more soldiers who had deserted from the Jins, the Mongols marched towards the capital, capturing a number of cities before confronting and decimating the Jin army in October 1211. By the time the capital ultimately fell, 3 Jin armies had been routed and Genghis Khan's army had accumulated enormous riches. The Mongol advance lasted until 1215. In addition, Genghis Khan acquired the skill of siege warfare and gathered craftsmen, engineers, and doctors, qualities that are typically absent in the Mongolian people. After effectively subduing the Chinese, he gave the Mongol Empire access to their wealth and cultural knowledge. But by 1217, Genghis Khan had grown disinterested in China because he was constantly searching for the next big thing. He moved his focus to the west and placed dependable generals in strategic locations like Manchuria and northern China. His attention was drawn to the Chara Khitai, who were left behind from the Liao dynasty and lived just west of Central Asia. Arriving at the city in 1208, Kuklug was a powerful man who married into the family of the monarch of Chara Khitai. He rebelled a few years later, taking the throne and intensifying the persecution of Muslims. Genghis Khan granted the request of certain persecuted Muslim adherents by dispatching his two most reliable generals to conquer the area. They defeated Kukhlug, capturing territory in what is now Kazakhstan, moving further west and eventually coming into contact with the Persians. Despite the fact that the fight was a draw, Genghis Khan was determined to get past the setback and in 1218 dispatched envoys to the Persian court to develop commercial contacts. Muhammad refused this, believing that Genghis Khan was attempting to subjugate him. With the exception of one merchant who was killed beyond the village of Otrar, the Persians ambushed the trade caravan that Genghis Khan had sent, carrying 500 camels and an enormous amount of wealth. Historians are unsure if Inalchuk, their governor, followed Muhammad's instructions or made his own decisions. Nevertheless, the Khwarezmian leader slashed two of the diplomats and killed one when Genghis Khan ordered Muhammad to punish this general. Genghis Khan then formally declared war. Genghis Khan led the army as usual as the Mongols launched their assault on Khwarezmian in 1219. Even though he was getting close to 60 at the time, he swiftly overthrew the Khwarezmian Empire with his cunning military tactics. In February 1220, they ruthlessly devastated Otrar, and Genghis Khan dispatched two of his sons to conquer neighboring cities together with a portion of the army. Cities that submitted were spared and assimilated. Those that rebelled were destroyed. In the meantime, Nurota and Bukhara were captured by Genghis Khan and his army. Because Nurota, being a Muslim pilgrimage site, Genghis Khan accorded the city favorable treatment upon Nurota's peaceful surrender. Bukhara, however, made a counterattack. Genghis Khan made an example of the people in the city when he eventually conquered it because they had many of his stolen possessions and had resisted. In addition to burning the town and demolishing mosques and schools, the Mongols also tortured, raped, and killed locals. Because of this episode, Genghis Khan came to be seen as God's retribution against the Muslims. After seizing control of the city in late March 1220, he focused on India, which posed the last major challenge to his dominance in Asia. The Mongol Empire's prosperity was largely attributed to Genghis Khan's military prowess. Even in his final years, he planned new expeditions and chances for conquest because he was committed to supporting his soldiers and defending his people. In order to build his empire, he also placed a high priority on learning, skill, loyalty, and honor. But because the empire was so vast, Genghis Khan's reign was short. August 1227 saw his passing, leaving an empire already fighting for control of the territories it had seized. With his passing, an age came to an end, and the Mongol Empire, which survived until 1368 but was too great to last, began to fall. Despite the Mongol Empire's eventual collapse due to power struggles among its leaders, its achievements and global influence will never be overlooked. That's all for this video. We will be back soon with another informative video. Don't forget to like and share this video. To keep exploring ancient history together, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Until next time!